Campbell, just to the thesis that I've just put out there, like, there's a lot of game playing that goes on. Like, and the normal person sits there, and it's only when somebody lists it all like that, and I could go on for an hour, right? This is the garbage that's going on. Oh, if you're pissed off about border closures, that's because you've been lied to by conservative media. Scientists who say if you think you're a Sheila, sure, you're one, and all the other stuff. It's a wild day today.
Look, it certainly is. I'm sorry, I'm just still recovering from what was that? Was that a kookaburra?
I think so.
Look, yeah, well, that was amazing. I mean, yeah, look, extraordinary. But to the main theme that I think you've spoken to this evening, Paul, about the border closures and Senator Chisholm's silly sort of interventions. This is not about, as you said, Team Red versus Blue. So I'll start this evening by saying very clearly, I don't agree with the Premier of WA, Labor, the Premier of South Australia, Liberal, the Premier of Tasmania, Liberal,
correct,
and the Premier of Queensland, Labor. I don't agree with any of them. They're all being foolish. They're all being very timid. And as we've seen from the federal health officials, the stance they're taking doesn't stand up to scrutiny. But let's turn to Queensland, because that's where it's particularly stark. I think, as you were alluding earlier on, you've got the border there, Tweed Heads, Coolangatta. On one side of the border, in a very short period of time, you ought to have 50 people congregate in a restaurant. On the other side of the border, 10 and then maybe 20 in June. I mean, it is ludicrous. And it's really interesting, the politics of this, because, and I've got to talk about politics, because Palaszczuk has been, and her people have been pushing this line, and this goes to the Chisholm thing, that it's sort of state of origin. It's, I won't be bullied by Premier Berejiklian in New South Wales. I won't be bullied by people in the south. I just say to Queenslanders, particularly watching this evening, and for people interstate as well, just to know the politics, this is complete BS. This is the Premier trying to pretend the bullying, and that in itself is pejorative, is coming from interstate. Well, Premier, it's not. And it's a political stunt. The pressure is coming internally from people, as Paul has already said in his editorial, from people whose businesses, livelihoods, families are being damaged, are being smashed. It's Queenslanders who want the borders open. Queenslanders who have jobs in the private sector, who are not in comfortable, public service jobs, who've seen their incomes completely disappear or being cut, and those businesses being destroyed. So don't be conned by this state of origin nonsense. It is a political ploy, and that needs to be said right up front this evening.
Yeah, I mean, Campbell, look, I get the feeling about how patronising this view is of Queenslanders and of normal people, right? The idea that ignore the guy who is about to lose everything because it's more important you watch me give it to people who live in Sydney. That's nasty, but it must be working somewhere. I mean, the people we talk to, it's not working with. I saw somebody writing an opinion piece today in one of the papers saying, hold on, you're keeping us safe. I know there's sort of some Peter Beattie era sort of Labor whisperer who's been put in there. Who is this working with, though?
Look, I don't quite get it, because I think they're misreading it, actually. Yes, maybe the base of the Labor Party, people who work in the public service and are left wing, perhaps people who are involved in unions and on their sinecures agree with the Premier. But those in the private sector do not. People on the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, in Townsville, in Cairns tonight, and points in between, the Whitsundays this evening, who've seen their livelihoods trashed, are watching with mounting fury, Paul. And they are the ones who should actually be writing in, ringing their local MP, whatever political party is their, that representative may be, and actually making the point that we need to open the borders. It's got to happen. It's got to happen now. The health advice actually from the federal health authorities says that we should be doing this. There's no reason not to. And every day that Palaszczuk and Goodwin and Marshall and McGowan in WA delay, they take responsibility. That's the point. They must take responsibility of the jobs that are destroyed, the businesses that are lost. It's on their heads now. And I wish all of them would wake up and see that, because it's a very real thing. It's not a game. It's real. And it's not just people like me saying it, it's people like Peter Beattie, former Labor Premier of Queensland, people like Jeff Kennett saying it, a guy who's seriously got his head screwed on the right way. That's what I'd say. And it's about time they listen. And before I sort of conclude on this, Paul, and I know you want to get on to other things probably, but, you know, the Chief Health Officer of Queensland is not, you know, Jesus Christ incarnate on the face of the earth. She's made some really bad calls in this. She's a good person, but she's the person who wouldn't allow a 4-plane overflight on Anzac Day, but allowed an 80-person congregation in Mackay for a funeral. There was the mishandling of the border closure in the first place here in Queensland. There's contradictory and illogical restrictions, not just in Queensland or across the board. It's right for us, it's right for the community to criticise our elected officials, and it's right for us to all question the judgment of people like Jeanette Young, the Chief Health Officer of Queensland, because we're not seeing good judgment right now.
I want to live in the free country where we can do all of that, not the one that's got concrete bollards between one side of the street and the other. It's outrageous. Thank you, Campbell. Really appreciate it, mate.